What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So this week, attention certainly shifted over to Valve with their Steam machine being announced, and I wanted to go back and look at a few other details that have been revealed that has to do with things like pricing and even discussion around a Steam Deck 2 and where Valve sits on that to, of course, go along with their living room box, but we'll go over all of that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about more Black Friday deals as they are leaking out. These have to do, though, with Sony and what could show some pretty substantial discounts, actually. And it looks like Rockstar and Take-Two did have an announcement. It just necessarily wasn't the game that people were expecting to get an upgrade, and we'll look at that as well. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button or link in the description down below. And we're going to start today with a bit of an update to what was really a breaking story at that time yesterday when we covered it in Newswave, and that is indeed a new Horizon MMORPG, and it was officially announced after the recording yesterday, and you can see like the trailer here for it. And this is Horizon Steel Frontiers. It is a new game for mobile devices and PC under development at Guild Wars Studio NCSoft. Now, this was kind of strange because it is for mobile and PC. Now, the way it works on PC is through NCSoft's Purple platform. To my understanding, that's kind of like an emulation layer, just emulator in general, so that you play mobile games on your PC. But the bottom line is, it's not coming to PlayStation 5, and that looks very, very weird, doesn't it? Well, Guerrilla, the word is they're also working on another multiplayer game that will be more focused in for consoles with the PlayStation 5. Wouldn't shock me if that also was going to PC. Again, this is kind of just going to PC because NCSoft has that Purple platform, the emulation. Otherwise, though, it's not going to Steam or anything else from what I've seen so far. And I guess it could go to the PlayStation 5 sometime in the future. Just for now, it's going to be on PC and mobile, which mobile is like the primary platform for this game. Still, we'll have to wait and see when Guerrilla is ready to show their big multiplayer Horizon game that will be on the PlayStation 5. Also, we had some weird stuff happening with Ubisoft yesterday. This you can see from Steven Totillo over on his account, saying Ubisoft not just delaying games anymore, now delaying earnings results 15 minutes before they are scheduled to have their quarterly call with investors. Also went a bit further. They halted trading. So this is strange. Delay earnings report for investors, halt trading. Sounds like something is going down within Ubisoft. There was also a memo that was going around internally there, and of course it leaks out because of all the speculation around this. And it basically said they were halting trading and delaying earnings because they're to fight back against speculation that would inevitably get out. It was a very weirdly worded memo, but bottom line, it sounds like something's going on at Ubisoft that could involve a full buyout. They could be going private. We already know there's stuff going on between them and Tencent, so who knows, but certainly want to keep an eye on Ubisoft for any big announcements that could be happening anytime now. Seriously, look out for Ubisoft over the next couple of days. Oh, and today we should see Metroid Prime 4 previews going live from different outlets, and it looked like there was some screenshots that got out there a bit early, even a little bit of footage, like a quick slice of what seemed to be the title screen where you press start or press A to get into the game. So just, again, keep an eye out for previews, and I'm crossing my fingers hoping this game ends up being really, really good because, again, it was shown back in 2017, full reboot, Retro Studios takes the helm, and they've been working on it for 5+ years now. So there is kind of a lot riding, I think, on this, and clearly for the Metroid franchise that has been actually on the upswing right now after Metroid Dread, doing very, very well in terms of sales for the overall Metroid franchise. I'd like to see Metroid Prime 4 continue on with that, but at least now we should see legit hands-on time with the press, and we'll see what kind of impressions they come out the other side with. So keep an eye out today for some Metroid Prime 4 impressions. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the Steam machine, as we have more details coming out, as we have a lot of media that's going hands-on with the device and also talking with different hardware engineers at Valve in interviews. And I picked out a few things here that I thought were kind of interesting, but there's still also a ton more information, especially around the internals of the device. And I'm putting together a video as I have to go around to a bunch of different reports on this thing, and Valve's kind of showing it off in videos and trying to get screenshots of some of the different hardware components for the device. I will say up front, looks like it's going to be extremely customizable, repairable. Repairable would be the correct term, I guess. But let's start here. We can see this is about the pricing, because that's really the bottom line now. How much is this going to cost, as everything kind of hinges on that based on the specifications and features that we've seen. It could be incredible for the price, or it could be, kind of disappointing for that price, so that's a big question mark right now, but Valve gave us a little more insight into this. We can see this though. This is from the Valve hardware engineer Yazan Aldehayat that spoke to IGN, saying, if you're looking to make a PC that has similar features and similar performance, I think the Steam Machine is going to be a really competitive price to that and provide really good value to it. The affordability piece you mentioned is one of the reasons why we think a Steam Machine makes a lot of sense right now. So it's just something that we thought about every time we made a hardware decision. A feature decision is to make sure that we keep it as approachable, as affordable as possible. So I think, I've been looking at this like, okay, where are they going to come in on pricing for this? And there are a few key decisions, as they're mentioning here, that they made clearly that were because of cost. Big one, and it's a huge talking about right now, 8 gigabytes of VRAM, all right, video memory. And right now, a lot of games are VRAM hungry and look for more than 8 gigabytes currently. And I think looking at this, Valve was thinking, okay, upscaling, and we can maybe make this work with 8 gigabytes and do quote unquote like faux 4K kind, like what consoles technically do now with the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. A lot of upscaling currently, but it seems like they believe with that, the SteamOS optimizations, I figure that they can get away with that, but the more VRAM you put into the system, the more expensive it's going to get, especially based on pricing around some of these components that's just been going up and up and up over the last month or two, and it's probably one of the reasons we don't know about the pricing currently. But if I had to take a guess right now, just based on the way that they've been framing and talking about the Steam Machine, I'm kind of thinking it might be $499. Now, I'm trying to figure out if it's going to come with a controller. So if it's like, no, it'd be weird, right? No controller, $500, or with a controller, it's $550 or something. I feel like it has to come with a controller. And then maybe I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's like $550 or $600. But I think it's $600 or less. And actually, I did do a poll, and we'll check that out later on in the show to see, well, how the community feels about it. Now, another big topic that's come up is like anti-cheat that we see with some of these games. Think of Battlefield 6, and that is an issue that we see currently with SteamOS, where it doesn't play nice, and you really can't play these games. And, well, this we can see from a Valve representative to Eurogamer, who says, while the Steam Machine also requires dev participation to enable anti-cheat, we think the incentives for enabling anti-cheat on Machine, or Steam Machine, to be higher than on Deck, as we expect more people to play multiplayer games on it. So ultimately, we hope that the launch of Machine will change the equation around anti-cheat support and increase its support. So that is a fair point, in that the Steam Deck doesn't really lean into the idea of playing competitive first-person shooters. And you can argue that to play competitive first-person shooters on PC, you need the full keyboard and mouse, nice setup there for precision. But there are a lot of people who want to sit back and play Battlefield 6 on just a larger display, and the Steam Deck really just isn't set up for that. So in that case, yes, you can still play competitively with a controller. Technically, you can use a keyboard and mouse with the Steam Machine, but the thing with the Steam Deck, millions have sold. And maybe with the Steam Machine, if it gets a similar move, I actually think there's potential for the Steam Machine to do better than the Steam Deck. And then, yeah, you might be able to influence some of these developers and publishers to figure out their anti-cheat setup around SteamOS, and that's the biggest driver here currently. That's why Valve is doing a lot of this, just getting more and more people involved, not only with SteamOS, but clearly with Steam, their digital marketplace that they make all their money from. Now, another thing people have been curious about, since Valve was in a very talkative mood around hardware, what about the Steam Deck 2? And this has come up multiple times already. This might be the most specific I've seen Valve be with the idea of a successor to the Steam Deck. This we can see, though. This is once again with IGN and Valve answering the question about a Steam Deck 2, saying, we're not interested in getting to a point where it's 20 or 30 or even 50% more performance at the same battery life. We want something a bit more demarcated than that. So we've been working back from silicone advancements and architectural improvements, and I think we have a pretty good idea of what the next version of Steam Deck is going to be. But right now, there's no offerings in that landscape, in the SoC, System on a Chip landscape, that we think would truly be a next-gen performance Steam Deck, and this is the right approach. Again, Valve has really looked at this from the affordability standpoint, and look at the direction right now of these PC gaming handhelds. $1,000 is average. I mean, it sounds crazy, but we have some of these PC handhelds, $1,200, $1,300, $1,400. Sounds crazy. And then you look at the Steam Deck and here it is at $300. And you go, okay, well, that makes a lot more sense for something that's portable and you're just going to kind of kick around the house and maybe travel with from time to time, but to be able to move your Steam library around basically right on the go. So that's been Valve's idea. It seems more affordability, trying to get these products into many people's hands, and it has worked. The Steam Deck, I mean, if you look at the PC gaming handheld space, the Steam Deck is the market leader there. Now, it's nowhere near what we know with mainstream devices, handhelds, home consoles currently, but for PC gaming handhelds, it is like the top one, and it makes sense. It's just, that's easier to buy compared to all these other ones. So I do think the Steam Deck 2 will still have that affordability in mind, and Valve seems more than happy to use older hardware to get good performance paired with SteamOS. And that's what we've known for, I mean, really game consoles or handhelds for a long time anyway, relying heavily on the ability for developers to really tap into that hardware. And we're starting to see that now with Steam Deck, where we're seeing native versions like Baldur's Gate 3 as an example for the Steam Deck. So picture that, but with the Steam Deck 2, you can have something there, but not yet. The technology needs to advance a bit further, and I'd prefer that rather than have, like a Steam Deck every year, every 2 years with marginal 20% increases where you look at it and go, what's really the point? Is this actually a Steam Deck 2 or is it a Steam Deck 1.3? And then one final thing I want to leave you here with the whole Valve Steam Machine thing is, while we've had hardware announced, nothing in terms of a new game or software, but that might not stay that way for too much longer. So, for example, you can see this. This is from Mike Straw at Insider Gaming saying, by the way, Valve isn't done with the big announcements. This is after all the hardware stuff they dropped. Soon enough, there's going to be something else. And here's the thing. If you're Valve, and you've been holding on to a game with a 3 on the end for a while, and you do all this stuff with hardware, and here comes a Steam Machine again, and you're trying to revive what didn't work out 10 years ago, man, wouldn't it be great if you had a game that could really set it up for success? And maybe you release it alongside of it early 2026, and it's optimized specifically for the Steam Machine. Maybe it runs great on the system, and it's a flagship title that, let's face it, they're probably not going to port to PlayStation or Xbox or Switch 2. Wouldn't it be interesting if they had Portal 3? Now, I saw Portal 3 get thrown around. I thought that was funny. But like Half-Life 3 clearly is what a lot of people are kind of getting at here. And I will say it's not out of the realm of possibility because it's always been this meme title, but maybe not for much longer. And I gotta say, you got Half-Life 3 there next to a Steam Machine. It's not nothing. Next up, let's talk about PlayStation Plus. That would be the extra and premium tiers, as we do have those now announced. These will be live November 18th, except for one game in particular, which we'll dive into more details around that one. We can see this, though. This is over on PlayStation Blog. That title is at the top. That's Red Dead Redemption. Again, we'll come back to this later on in the show because there's quite a bit to say about that one. But the big headliner they had until Red Dead Redemption popped up was Grand Theft Auto 5. So there you go. It is a re-release. They even put a little star next to it to make sure everyone knows that it has been there before. It got taken out, and now it's going back in. So one Grand Theft Auto got delayed. The other one got re-released. There you go. Then we have Pacific Drive on the PS5. This is an interesting game. It's kind of weird. It's definitely a game I've never experienced anywhere else, but it's sort of this first-person driving survival game. And your car, you'll build it up. As they mentioned, it's your only companion as you navigate a surreal and anomaly-filled reimagining of the Pacific Northwest. It's a very lonely game too, I will say that, but a very interesting one. Again, very, very unique stuff. Then we have Still Wakes the Deep. That's on PS5. Insurgency Sandstorm, PS5 and PS4. Thank goodness you're here, PS5 and PS4. People have talked highly about this game. I have never played it. They say it's actually pretty funny and a very weird game. So it going in is for PlayStation Plus. Does make it a bit easier to try out. Maybe I'll do that. I'll give it a download. Then we have the Talos Principle 2 on PS5, Monster Jam Showdown, PS5 and PS4. And then we have MotoGP 25, PS5 and PS4 to round out extra. Moving to premium, we have one game, and something about this, it's still kind of annoying because it feels like premium should, I think, bare minimum get 2 games per month. But it is Tomb Raider Anniversary, PS5 and PS4. We had already heard about that we were going to see that go in. It leaked out a bit early, but seems like it will have the typical up-res and stuff that we have had for previous PlayStation 2 games. I haven't seen anything about trophies, nothing like that. Seems also very hit or miss if we have trophy support in some of these PlayStation Plus premium retro releases. Still, though, not a bad month, but I will say Red Dead Redemption comes in like last minute, like right as the clock struck 0 to, I think, take it up to that level. Otherwise, it's like, oh, GTA 5 is a re-release, huh? There's one game in PlayStation Plus Premium. Feels like we're kind of paying for what was a very, very good October, actually. But hey, Red Dead Redemption, we'll get to a bit more about that here soon. Next up, let's talk about Black Friday deals for Sony. And I want to bring these up specifically because we're in kind of that no man's land right now where if you buy a PS5 currently, rather than wait, like a week and a half, 2 weeks, you'll most likely be overpaying when there is about to be, I think, a pretty good sale. We've seen this before, but again, 2 weeks out, if you're planning on buying a PS5, you should wait because, like, we could see this. This is over on D-Labs, and they're pretty good about a lot of the stuff in the back end at these different retailers. And they say so this is for Europe, but we should see something very, very similar, all right, in the US and even other parts of the world, where if you look at any of these PlayStation 5 consoles, standard, digital, even like the Fortnite bundle, they are marked down minimum $100. What's really interesting here, though, is the PlayStation 5 Digital Edition is marked down $150. That seems very low, and at first it almost looked like it was a typo, but no, they confirmed it's marked down $150, so I'm curious to see how that translates over exactly into US. And I know the price is going to be a little different depending on region, especially with all the tariff stuff going on, I know, but this is still a $100 discount or 100 discount is pretty good. And the PS5 Pro console also seeing a 100 discount there as well. And keep in mind, there's also things that you can see some of these retailers do that would be like you could have Walmart do something versus Target, Best Buy, or GameStop to go along with this, especially GameStop. They tend to do like this, they tend to do this buy two, get one free, or buy two, get third free on used titles a lot. So it's very possible that they do something like that. But just keep in mind for the PS5, we should see Sony announce this here pretty soon because these deals will be going live November 21st. They'll probably want to get as close as they can to the start of that sale so they don't undercut too many of their PlayStation 5 console sales outright, but just hold off a bit if you're planning on getting one for this holiday season, as here soon, you'll be able to save minimum $100 on one. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about that Red Dead Redemption upgrade. Now, we have a full trailer as well as a post over on Rockstar's website, and we can see some of the images and trailer here. And this is coming out to Switch 2, Xbox Series, PlayStation 5, and mobile phones, interestingly enough. Now, if you remember, we have a PS4 and an Xbox One and a Switch 1 version. So these would technically be the next generation versions of Red Dead Redemption. On the Switch 2, we have DLSS being used for enhanced resolution. They didn't necessarily say 4K outright, but they are mentioning that they are using DLS for just better image quality. 60 FPS, HDR, mouse controls, cool, and that will be a free upgrade for Switch 1 owners. The Xbox Series and the PlayStation 5 has enhanced image quality, 4K at 60 FPS. They did specifically mention 4K next to Xbox Series and PS5, HDR, and a free upgrade path, of course, for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One owners. On the mobile side, iOS and Android devices are supported here, and they have mobile-friendly control options. And get this, if you're a Netflix subscriber right now, you can download and play it as part of your subscription. So Netflix has done this. They have like their whole gaming division for mobile devices. So if you have that being Netflix on your phone, you should be able to go through it and just download Red Dead Redemption when all of this releases December 2nd. So not that far away, less than a month, like 3 weeks or so. Pretty cool thing to see here. And I mean, I'll be curious to see how it looks on the Switch too, of course, because it's going to be tapping DLSS, and I'm sure Digital Foundry get a kick out of it. But the game itself is awesome. Being on the PS4 and the Xbox One, it is kind of like, what could this look like even on a PS5 or an Xbox Series? While that did have like the backwards compatibility, FPS boost, resolution boost, you know, if you could tap into it natively, you could do some cool stuff. And then even I'm also a little curious just on mobile phones, just to see it. Phones have really come a long way, and it's funny to think back on the 360. I'd be like, this phone's never going to play this game. And now here we are, it technically took a while, like 14 years or something. But here we are, Red Dead Redemption right there on your phone. Anyway, keep an eye out for this. Again, December 2nd, it'll be launching, and if you already have the game, you're good to go with a free upgrade. And before we go to the comments of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, how much will the Steam machine, the 512 gigabyte model specifically cost? Remember that 2 terabyte model? It's just going to be more expensive, and I think a lot of people are going to hone in on this 512 gigabyte model because the price will just be lower there than the 2 terabyte. Anyway, the leading choice, well, it's kind of tied, but it seems to be 700 or more, or then 600. 500 was at 24%, and 8% say 400. I put 400 in there, even though I don't think that's a possibility, because that's what the Steam Deck released at. That was the price point of like the 64 gigabyte model. I'm so torn between 500 and 600. I would love to see Valve get this thing in there at $500, $499.9. I think that'd be legitimately impressive, and then I think that would turn some heads. People would go, oh, okay, those specs actually aren't that bad for $500. Look at the price of video cards now. You go, well, okay, well, you get a video card that, yes, has more VRAM, but then you gotta start putting everything else together around that device, and all of a sudden it turns into a $1,000 plus very, very quickly. So the idea of this being just another way to play games in your house, even away from your really nice setup, but maybe you have it in the living room where you're like 10 feet away from your TV anyway, not right up against your monitor screen. And if it's at 60 FPS and quote unquote 4K upscaled, it might be that situation of good enough. But the price point also has to be good enough. If it is above 700, people are going to think a bit more about that with those specs. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Panther, who says, I see a lot of people complaining about the specs. This machine isn't for people who want a high-end gaming experience. This isn't for PC people. It's for people who want easy access to the Steam catalog. It's for people who otherwise would have bought a console. It's for families. It's for people who think the Steam Deck is incredible, maybe want something just as easy, but a bit more powerful for playing on their TV at home. This isn't a PC for PC players. This is a machine for everyone else. I think a lot of people are missing that. So you're right in the sense that if you looked at those specs and you went 8 gigabytes of VRAM, ugh, what is this? You're probably not necessarily the target audience of Valve thinking, if someone's going to notice that, they could technically just build their own PC and load Bazite on it, and they're going to get that experience. You have to tinker with a bit, yes, but you'll still kind of get that experience with the video RAM that you want, the resolution, and yeah, maybe the whole thing cost you $1,500, but you got there. The idea is going to be the affordability option and the approachability, and that's the thing I really hope to see out of this over everything is the idea that SteamOS could build out into something that is extremely controller-friendly, extremely big picture TV mode friendly, to where, yes, it does kind of feel like a console, but it's ease of use. And I think that's a very, very important aspect for Valve to really, really think about and hone in on. There's just a ton of potential here. Because think about it, you buy this box, let's say it is 500, you don't pay for online. The Steam sales are legendary. And yeah, it'll probably give you good enough quote unquote visuals resolution that probably will be comparable to like a PS5 or an Xbox Series for the most part. So I just think there's a lot of value there if they get the price right. But that's what it's going to come down to, because otherwise they could absolutely price out the demographic that they're targeting with it. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you want to hang out and listen to a video game podcast that we do on the weekends with the Spawncast. We had a lot to say this past weekend, and I'll leave it right below it. Thanks, guys, for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for Newswave.